Every forest begins with a single seed. So does every fortune. Most people believe wealth begins with a brilliant idea, a lucky investment, or a life-changing opportunity. But nature has always told a different story. Nothing truly valuable grows overnight. The tallest tree in the forest was once no larger than the palm of your hand. For years, it remained hidden beneath the soil. No one admired it. No one celebrated it. No one even knew it existed. Yet beneath the surface, something extraordinary was happening. Its roots were growing, deeper, stronger, preparing for a future no one else could see. Wealth works exactly the same way. Long before the world notices your success, your daily habits are shaping it. Every dollar you save, every book you read, every skill you develop, every wise decision you repeat, plants another seed. Most people never become wealthy. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because they abandon the process. Before the roots have a chance to grow, they want results without patience, success without sacrifice, fruit without planting the tree. But history tells us a different story. Every lasting fortune was built quietly, patiently, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one year at a time. Today, we're going to uncover the timeless blueprint that turns tiny daily actions into extraordinary wealth. Because the greatest fortunes were never created overnight. They were planted, protected, nurtured, and given time to grow. Welcome to the Money Tree. How small habits become million-dollar fortunes. Imagine walking through an ancient forest. Towering trees surround you. Some have stood for centuries. Some have survived countless storms. Some have outlived generations of people. When you look at them, you see strength, you see resilience, you see permanence. But there's one simple truth that most people forget. None of these giants started this way. Every single one began as a tiny seed, small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. Wealth works exactly the same way. Most people only notice the finished result, the beautiful homes, the successful businesses, the investment portfolios worth millions, the freedom to live life on their own terms. But those are not the beginning of the story. They are the ending. The real beginning is almost invisible. A single decision, a new habit, reading one book, saving a small portion of your income, making your very first investment, choosing to become just a little wiser every single day. At first, none of these actions seem life-changing, because nature follows a simple law. First, the roots grow. Only then does the tree begin to rise. Wealth follows that very same law. For years, the most important growth happens where nobody can see it. Discipline shapes your character. Knowledge sharpens your decisions. Patience separates you from those who quit too early. And time quietly multiplies everything. This is where most people give up, not because they fail, but because they can't yet see the results. Yet nature teaches us something extraordinary. No mighty tree bears fruit the day its seed is planted, and no lasting fortune is created overnight. It begins with small, almost invisible decisions. Then it is protected by discipline, strengthened through knowledge, nurtured with patience, and given the one thing that changes everything: time. Years later, what once looked like ordinary habits becomes what the world calls success. But it was never luck. It was never magic. It was the quiet power of thousands of small decisions, made consistently, over and over again. And every extraordinary fortune begins exactly the same way, with one small seed. Imagine placing just $1 aside today. It doesn't seem important. It doesn't feel like a life-changing decision. In fact, most people wouldn't even notice it. And that's exactly why compound growth is so powerful. Its greatest work happens when nothing appears to be happening. Day after day, week after week, year after year, the changes are almost invisible. $1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8. At first, The progress feels painfully slow. Many people quit during this stage, not because the system is broken, but because they mistake silence for failure. Nature doesn't rush, neither does wealth. Every river begins as a tiny stream. Every mountain was shaped one grain of sand at a time, and every great fortune starts with small actions repeated consistently. The wealthy understand something that most people never do. Money is not created by dramatic moments. It is created by ordinary decisions, repeated for an extraordinary length of time. Saving a little more, learning a little more, investing a little more wisely, improving just 1% every day. Individually, these actions seem insignificant. Together, they become unstoppable. This is why patience is more valuable than excitement. Discipline is more powerful than motivation, and consistency always defeats intensity. The world celebrates spectacular success, but it rarely celebrates the thousands of quiet days. That made success inevitable. Every millionaire, every great business, every lasting legacy is simply the result of compound growth, working quietly, for years. The question is not whether compound growth works. The question is, will you stay patient long enough to let it work for you? For a while, everything feels the same. You save, you learn, you invest, yet your life hardly seems to change. This is the moment where most people walk away, not because they failed, but because success arrived too quietly to be noticed. The human brain is wired for immediate rewards. We crave quick victories, instant pleasure, visible progress. When those rewards don't appear, we begin to doubt the process. We question ourselves. We question our decisions. Sometimes, we even question our dreams. But wealth follows a different set of rules. It rewards patience, not excitement, consistency, not intensity. The greatest investors in history understood this better than anyone. They didn't become wealthy because they always made perfect decisions. They became wealthy because they refused to abandon good decisions. Again, and again, and again. Every dollar invested was another vote for their future. Every book they finished expanded their thinking. Every mistake became another lesson, while others searched for shortcuts. They quietly built foundations. The truth is, most fortunes are not destroyed by bad investments. They are destroyed by impatience. People chase the next opportunity, the next trend, the next miracle, instead of allowing time to multiply what they already have. Real wealth demands something rare, the ability to keep moving, even when nobody applauds, even when progress is invisible, even when doubt becomes louder than hope. Because one day, the invisible becomes impossible to ignore, and when that day arrives, the world calls it luck. But you will know the truth. It was never luck. It was patience, compounding, every single day.
The 33-33-33 principle, the blueprint of lasting wealth for thousands of years. The world's greatest fortunes were not built on luck. They were built on balance, ancient merchants, successful kingdoms, and some of history's wisest investors understood one timeless truth. Never allow your future to depend on a single source. If one pillar falls, the others keep you standing. This simple philosophy has survived wars, economic crises, market crashes, and the rise and fall of empires. Today, many people call it diversification, but its roots stretch back thousands of years. The principle is surprisingly simple. Divide your wealth into three powerful foundations. The first, own productive assets, businesses, stocks, investments, anything that creates more value over time. Your money should learn to work, even while you sleep. The second, own real assets, land, real estate, property, things that preserve value across generations. While currencies rise and fall, real assets have protected wealth for centuries. The third, always keep liquid reserves, cash, emergency savings, available capital, not because cash makes you rich, but because opportunity always belongs to those who are prepared. When markets crash, the prepared investor buys. When everyone panics, the disciplined investor acts. This is why the wealthy rarely place everything into one basket. They build balance, strength, flexibility. The goal is not to predict the future. The goal is to be prepared for any future, because true wealth isn't measured by how much money you make. It's measured by how long your wealth survives, and the families who preserve wealth for generations understand one lesson better than anyone. Protect first, grow second, repeat forever. There is one ingredient that almost every great fortune shares. Not intelligence, not talent, not even opportunity. It is patience. In a world obsessed with speed, patience has become one of the rarest financial advantages. Everyone wants results today. Everyone wants the shortcut, the secret investment, the overnight success story. But wealth has never followed that timeline. A mighty oak tree doesn't grow in a week. A successful company isn't built in a month. And a lasting fortune is never created overnight. The wealthiest people understand something that most people never truly appreciate. Time is not their enemy. It is their greatest business partner. While others constantly chase the next opportunity, they quietly allow their existing investments to continue growing because they know the greatest returns usually come during the years when nothing exciting seems to happen. Patience is difficult because it demands trust. Trust in the process, trust in discipline, trust in decisions, whose rewards may not appear for years. Most people stop right before the breakthrough, not because they made the wrong choice, but because they couldn't wait long enough to see the results. History repeats this lesson again and again. The families who preserve wealth across generations rarely rely on brilliant predictions. Instead, they rely on simple habits, repeated patiently for decades. True wealth is not built by rushing. It is built by remaining steady while everyone else becomes impatient, because time rewards those who refuse to quit. And in the end, patience isn't simply a virtue. It becomes your greatest financial investment. Every fortune, no matter how extraordinary, is built from ordinary days, not extraordinary moments, not once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, but simple habits, repeated again and again. Most people believe wealth begins when you earn more money, but that's not where it starts. Wealth begins the moment you change what you do every single day. A single page read today may become the idea that changes your entire career. A single dollar invested today may become thousands. Years from now, one new skill can open doors you never knew existed. The problem is, daily habits rarely look important. Reading 10 pages feels insignificant. Saving $20 feels too small. Learning for 30 minutes feels ordinary. But time sees those actions differently. Time quietly connects thousands of tiny decisions into one extraordinary result. The wealthiest people understand something most never do. Success is never built in giant leaps. It is built one morning at a time, one decision at a time, one investment at a time, one habit repeated long enough to become a lifestyle. Eventually, the habits become automatic. The automatic actions become your identity, and your identity shapes your future. People often admire financial freedom, but they rarely admire the years of discipline that created it, because greatness looks boring while it's being built. The difference between an average life and an extraordinary one is often nothing more than what you choose to repeat every single day. Remember, your future isn't created tomorrow, it's being created today, right now, with the habits you choose to repeat. There is one investment that no market crash can erase, no inflation can devalue, no recession can destroy. It is the investment you make in yourself. Money can disappear, businesses can fail, real estate prices can fall, but knowledge, skills, experience, and wisdom stay with you. Every book you finish changes the way you think. Every lesson you learn changes the way you act. Every mistake you survive makes your future decisions stronger. The world's wealthiest people never stop learning because they understand that income rarely grows. Beyond personal growth, the more valuable you become, the more opportunities begin to appear. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. The greatest fortunes were never built only by investing money. They were built by investing in the mind. That makes every financial decision. Knowledge creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates opportunity. And opportunity creates wealth. The beautiful part is that anyone can begin. You don't need millions. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need permission. You only need the willingness to improve yourself a little every single day. Because when you become more valuable, your future becomes more valuable too. The greatest asset you will ever own is not your portfolio. It is the person looking back at you in the mirror. What is wealth if it disappears the moment you're gone? True wealth is not measured by what you spend. It is measured by what remains. The greatest fortunes were never created for one lifetime alone. They were built to protect, support, and inspire the generations that followed. A legacy is more than money. It is knowledge, values, discipline, responsibility, and the habits that teach others how to build what you built. Many families lose their wealth, not because they lacked money, but because they failed to pass on wisdom. Money without knowledge eventually disappears, but knowledge can create wealth again and again. This is why the world's most successful families teach financial principles long before they transfer financial assets, because wealth begins in the mind before it ever appears in the bank account. Imagine planting a tree, knowing you may never sit beneath its shade, yet you plant it anyway because someone else will. That is the mindset of true builders. They think beyond themselves, beyond today, beyond this generation. The greatest investment is not the money you leave behind. It is the mindset you leave behind, because fortunes can be inherited, but wisdom must be taught. And when wealth is guided by wisdom, it no longer lasts for years. It lasts for generations. Every journey has a beginning, not a perfect beginning, just a beginning. No millionaire started with certainty. No great investor knew exactly how the future would unfold. They simply made one decision to begin. The difference between those who build wealth and those who only dream about it is rarely intelligence. It is action. One person waits for the perfect moment. The other starts with what they have. One keeps making excuses. The other keeps making progress. Years later, the gap becomes enormous, not because one person was luckier, but because one person never stopped moving. Remember, the future is never built in one giant leap. It is built one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one investment at a time. Today, you know the blueprint, you know the principles, you know that patience, discipline, knowledge, and consistency can change an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Now, there is only one question left. Not, what should I do? But, when will I begin? Because the best time to plant the tree was years ago. The second best time is today. Your future will be shaped by the decision you make right now. The first step is always the hardest, but it is also the one that changes everything. If you've made it this far, you already know that wealth was never the destination. It was the result of thousands of choices made when no one was watching. Every book, every dollar saved, every investment, every lesson learned, every moment of patience quietly became part of something much bigger, like the roots of a tree growing silently beneath the ground. No applause, no recognition, no shortcuts, just quiet progress, repeated day after day, year after year. Eventually, the world only sees the tree. It never sees the years spent growing the roots. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson of all. Success is rarely dramatic while it's being built. It is usually quiet, ordinary, almost invisible, until one day it isn't. One day, people will call you lucky. They'll admire the life you've built. They'll see the freedom, the confidence, the opportunities, but they won't see the mornings you chose discipline, the evenings you chose learning, the moments you kept going when quitting felt easier. Because true wealth has never been about money alone. It is about becoming the kind of person who can create value again and again, no matter what happens. That is real financial freedom. So as you leave this video, remember one simple truth. The future is not something you wait for. It is something you build. One decision, one habit, one day at a time. Plant wisely, grow patiently, protect what you build, and never underestimate the extraordinary power of small actions repeated consistently, because every great fortune, every lasting legacy, and every meaningful life begins with a single seed.